think I would stop messing that up eventually. All right, we're going to get started. I know that Claire wasn't feeling well, so perhaps she won't be able to dial in. So, all right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the November 2023 meeting of the City of Revere Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board. My name is Joe Gravelisi, and I am the chair of this board. We'll begin by taking attendance, then also noting guests that we have joining us virtually, in addition to here in person. So calling the roll, Claire Inzerillo, Vice Chair, is currently not here. I know that she said she might be able to join us at some point. Anayo Zwecki?
Here.
Okay. Layla Pietri?
Present.
Dean Harris?
Here.
Jan Dumas?
Here.
Deb Frank?
Here.
And then I'd like to acknowledge representing the city. We have here in person both, now we have both Tom Skorosky and Lorena Escalero. And then also virtually we have current and not recently reelected City Councilor Mark Silvestri. So Mark, thank you for joining us. Okay, so we'll move to the first item on the agenda, which, as always, is a check-in on the finances. I know that you got an update on the current balance.
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. This is an update for the balance for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund in Revere from Ascent Newton as of November 8th, 2023. The full balance is $864,063.80.
So we continue to show strong growth from the interest generated in the account, which is great, and that'll continue to help us as we get ready to make some of the investments that we've talked about and voted on, which is terrific. Thank you for that. Any other questions, comments on the budget or the finances? Okay, so we'll move to the next item. Sorry, I had a little freeze up here. Which is an update on the housing production plan. So I don't know who from the city would like to come up and check in about that. But just for purposes of the members, so I know that we have some overlap between members of the board and members of the housing production plan. You want to join us, Mr. Mayor? Come on in. All right. We're now joined by. Are you officially not acting anymore? Is that how that works? Okay, Mayor. I don't know when you become inaugurated. Well. Acting Mayor / Mayor-elect Keefe has joined us as well. Hello. So there is a lot of overlap between both members of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board and also the Housing Production Plan Working Group. And there's also a lot of overlap in the work that we do. So with that, I thought it would be helpful for both myself and for Tom to maybe just talk a little bit about the sessions that we've had so far and how we envision the Affordable Housing Trust Fund being involved with the work going forward.
Absolutely, Joe. And thank you all for inviting us here tonight to talk about the housing production plan. And of course, for helping to fund it in the first place so we could be having this discussion. We've begun initial work with our Affordable Housing Production Plan Working Group, which does involve some members of the trust fund, as well as members of, the city council. We have folks within City Hall, and we've been meeting internally to discuss the steps we need to put the plan together. And really the first meeting with J.M. Goldson, our consultant, was really just to talk about what is all involved in a housing production plan, much like the initial conversation we had to discuss scope and schedule. And the last meeting we had just last week was to talk about really creating a community engagement checklist, and what that basically entails is figuring out all the steps we need to take to make sure that the community is engaged in the process. There's going to be 2 public meetings. The first will be held in January, and I'm sure Lorena can help me on the date. January 10th at a location to be determined, and that will be really the first opportunity to gain community input on the areas that we would like to see housing development, and in particular affordable housing development in the city. And then subsequent to that, we'll have another community meeting in the large sense of the word at the end of the housing production plan to really kind of review what we've done. And then in between then, there's going to be a series of events where we're going to try to get the community's input through surveys, through focus groups, and just some really in-depth conversations. And that's something we'll be working with the consultants on. That's something we'll be working with our community liaisons, the Department of Planning, Community Development, and our working group. So our last meeting, we were really talking about what we all can do together as a community to get the word out about this plan, to get the word out about the housing crisis more generally and housing affordability, to make sure that we're all kind of rowing in the same direction on this issue and we all understand the issue in front of us.
Thank you, and appreciate that. You know, I know, so for those of us that are part of the working group, we've been sort of assigned tasks or assigning tasks for ourselves for how the outreach is going to go. I think it's really important that we all think about ways that we can play a role in doing outreach, because there's two things that I think we'd really like to avoid, and this is just, you know, me speaking as me. I'm not speaking, you know, for Tom or for the city or for the consultants, but I'm sure that most would agree. What can happen sometimes with these public processes is really one of two things. Either one, you know, a very particular interest group, maybe one way or the other, dominates the proceedings, and we don't want that. You know, I want people who agree with me, who disagree with me, who agree with me on some things and disagree on other things, and really get a range of perspectives. The other thing that we don't want to have happen is, for lack of a better term, sometimes these rooms get stacked with, like, there's a particular agenda in mind of the people that put it together, and that's not what we want either. You know, we really do want to get genuine, broad-ranging feedback, but then we also want it to be meaningful and thoughtful. You know, this isn't going to be a process where the answer is no to everything, you know, or the answer is what can we be negative about, you know, how can we poke holes in every idea that's out there for affordable housing production. It's how can we bring the community together to a place where we understand what the challenges are that we face when it comes to affordable housing. We understand what the sort of range of solutions are, which all have positives, negatives, you know, different trade-offs, and how do we value those trade-offs and determine, you know, what we think is best for the community. So on that note, of course, in addition to using the platform that we have to publicize the sessions, I know we've talked about, you know, going through organizations that we're a part of, whether it be through TND or through the Revere Housing Authority, you know, as a way to get folks engaged and get them involved. We obviously want our elected officials to be involved. You all have networks of people that you know and that you work with and that you trust. I see, especially I'm looking at you, Mark, since you joined us. So really, if folks have ideas, thoughts on how we can really best make this an inclusive process, obviously all the ears internally in the room, but also externally, you know, anyone that's out there, we'd really love to hear it. And we want to make sure that we're really getting inclusive feedback. So with that, I don't know if others have thoughts or questions on where we're at with the housing production plan so far.
The only that I say I was talking before with Joy is because I'm part of the group also, the housing equity community with Chelsea. We are a big group. So it's working with TND. They have a lot of housing buildings here, so for be more involved with the project. So I'm gonna work with Rafael Maris, is from TND on that aspect. So
It's much appreciated. Any others? Dean, I'd love to hear, you know, what might be good ways to engage residents at the Housing Authority.
I think if you have an agenda, you have a meeting that you want, if you work, we'll work with you to get that word out. I mean, it's pretty easy for us. We have decent enough infrastructure to get it out. If there's a flyer, if there's a community event, we can put it on our website. We have our own robocall system. If we had a meeting at some place or had something that you wanted them to see, where we can electronically get that out to them. So we can get the word out there.
Great. Anything you'd want to add to that so far, Tom? Or?
I think at the December meeting, we'll have a location for the January public meeting for the housing production plan, and then we'll also probably at that point have a live link for the survey. So that's two kind of quick action items that we can all take action on collectively. And then the other component is Jam Goldson, who's working on the production plan, will then in the new year also be working with you all on further developing your mission, goals, and action items so you can really hit the ground running in the new year to put that money to good use, helping us solve our affordability crisis here in Revere.
Awesome. Well, we're really excited about that. obviously we're bought in and invested as a board. We put a small amount of money towards the housing production plan. And remind folks, what's the timeline on when we expect that to be delivered?
The plan itself should be delivered in late winter of 2024. And at that point, they'll also be working with you all kind of in tandem on your goals and operational principles.
Great, thank you. I'd like to acknowledge, by the way, that Claire has joined us. And Claire, I hope you're feeling okay.
I want to say sorry. I was sitting in the Google Meet waiting room for about 10 minutes. I'm like, where is everyone? I didn't realize it was the Zoom because I have the Google in my work calendar. So sorry I'm late.
That's okay. We hope you're feeling all right. And I know, Dean, you said you.
One thing I think when we do this outreach to the people is, I don't think the people in the city realize that about 50% of them fall into that affordable range. And so when we talk about affordable, I think people think the very, very low income, and they don't realize that 60 to 80% of the median income encapsulates a great number of people in the city, and they don't understand that it would benefit them to be a part of this and to welcome this.
Absolutely. And so that should definitely be part of our engagement strategy, is really how do we effectively communicate who the faces are of those who benefit from investments in affordable housing, or from some of the tools that we have in the toolbox. We could talk about interviewing people that have benefited, from some of the tools and strategies, giving examples of jobs and backgrounds and things that people do, just so that people kind of know and relate to and have a face and an idea of who we're trying to support, which is everybody, of course, but making sure that people know. Great. Terrific. Any other questions or thoughts on housing production plan? No? So we'll move on, and we'll just keep, it's the Dean hour. Wanted to talk a little bit about potentials for partnerships with the Revere Housing Authority. I had a chance to attend the Housing Authority's board meeting last month, and just give an overview of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and what we do, as a way of hopefully just starting a dialogue of ways that we can work together. Obviously, we've talked about a lot of different strategies and things that we can employ as a board, and where the overlap might be with the RHA. So would love to hear, Dean, your feedback, both from when I came and then any conversations that you've had since on how we might be able to best work together.
Well, I think we talked a little bit about the short-term goals where if the Affordable Housing Trust decided to implement some sort of a down payment assistance program, that people that are part of the FSS homeownership program through the Revere Housing Authority might be able to apply. I think, as you're aware, the Housing Authority is at the infancy stages of redeveloping and repositioning our entire portfolio. And I know in other cities with other housing authorities, when they've done their development, there has been some engagement and some funds that go back and forth between the housing authority, or actually it's the trust to the housing authority. But overall, I think it was a great meeting. Thank you for coming. Board is grateful that you were there.
I appreciated the opportunity, and I think it also just helps get the word out about what we do and who we are and what we're trying to accomplish, which is terrific. Any questions, comments, thoughts on partnership opportunities with the Housing Authority? Okay, seeing none. Moving right along. So I think I'd like to use the balance of this meeting to really just give an overview and a check-in of where we're at with our different initiatives and projects that we've undertaken this year. We are coming up on the end of the calendar year, our first full year in operation, which is really exciting. And it's a good time to take stock of where we're at. So we would like to start with probably the most concrete step that we've taken, which is the Salem Street condo project. I don't know if Tom or Lorena, if you have an update on the city end of where that stands, permitting wise. I know that since the last meeting, they got what they needed, from the city council, but I don't know if you have any other color that you want to add to that. No? Okay. Nothing added. I think that's basically the story, which is great. And it seems like, I hadn't seen this myself, but Dean mentioned that it looks like applications were put up for the affordable housing component. So definitely, we'll say it here. We'll put it in the meeting notes, but also spread it to your networks, post it, share it. and let folks know that this opportunity is available for the deed restricted units at Salem Street. So, and Dean, I'm going to reiterate a conversation that we had, you and I, prior to the meeting, which is, we're really proud and grateful to have had the opportunity to support this. I think taking what could have been, 7 units of deed restricted housing and making it more than tripling it, the inventory, using funds that, came in from other projects that were predominantly market rate to then invest in affordable. That's really what we're here to do. So I think that was a terrific initiative, and super grateful for the partnership with the city, with city staff, and everyone here to help make that happen. So, any questions on Salem Street? No? Thank you all. So the line item for first-time home buyer assistance, I know Lorena sent a document, so if you want to give us an update on that.
Sure. This week we've begun the process of setting up the contract with the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. They've sent us instructions on how to process the reimbursement payments for us. So they'll let us know when the disbursement process will begin.
Great. And so I think one thing that we'll need to maybe form a subcommittee on or something is we really need to determine how we're going to administer this once we get the earmark. I know we've talked about the possibility of working with Mass Housing. I don't know if we've had further conversations with them about that.
Just the contract setup has been discussed.
Yeah. I think that would probably be ideal, is to, kind of blend it with the way they do their eligibility screening, so that way we don't reinvent a process that already exists. But we'll work in the coming months to determine if that's feasible, if that's allowable, and if so, we can just piggyback off of kind of what they're already doing. As a reminder for those that maybe are new to this process or not familiar, our state delegation was able to get earmark in the state budget this year for $25,000 to help us pilot a first-time home buyer down payment assistance program. The idea being $5,000 for 5 eligible households. The ability to stack this on top of what the state does is important, particularly for 2 reasons. First of all, just costs keep going up, right? So you want to be able to add to the power that's there to support families that need it. And then also, in particular, in Revere, the costs are going up higher than they are in the region more broadly. So even if there was an increase, in what the state made available, you would want to see us on our end in the city supplement that, to just recognize the fact that we are seeing fast growth in prices. So grateful for the opportunity to pilot that. Confident that we'll administer it well, that it'll be popular, it'll be successful, and it's something that we'll want to come back and fund at a larger level for more households after we've had a chance to pilot it. Any questions about that? No? I want to make sure I'm keeping my eye on the Zoom too, if folks have questions.
No, I'm having trouble hearing you. I don't know if anyone else is.
Okay. Can you hear me in the room at least?
It's very, very faint.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not sure. I am speaking right into the mic, so I don't know if maybe there's an issue on the transmission or something. Maybe if we could recess for a moment and just see if the gentleman from Revere TV, if you're having trouble hearing me. I'm going to ask for a brief recess. Any objection? clear on YouTube and on TV, but for whatever reason, it wasn't coming through as clearly in the Zoom. And so I was asked to use my outdoor voice. So I'm going to try doing that and looking for acknowledgement from the folks on the Zoom. Can you hear me a little bit better? I see a thumbs up. I see a iffy 50-50. Well, apologies. We haven't had this issue before, so I'll try to speak up. And if you need me to repeat anything, if you feel like you're missing anything major, please flag me. We can try dropping things in the chat. But okay. So, Dean, I think you wanted to go back to a partnership opportunity.
I apologize, I was remiss. Commissioner Drame the other day had sent me information regarding the Mass General Hospital. Apparently, there's $18 million out there for affordable housing, and I think a letter of intent has to be processed by November 29th. And so I think that might be something we could either work together on, or at least work here on, and see what we can do and apply for there. So I think there is an opportunity for both of us with the Mass General Fund.
For sure. You actually read my mind. I was going to bring up, I think one thing that we'll want to do is, again, form like a subcommittee or a working group or a meeting to discuss putting in a letter of intent for MGH determination of need funding. And I think working with the Housing Authority could be a great way to do that. So maybe that's something that the two of us separately can spearhead and see if folks want to participate in that process. Thank you.
Joe, I'd also quickly want to flag that every 2 weeks, I don't know if you were on them. I think you might have been too late because I think they started during COVID, but they do the community network response calls, and Sylvia Chang's on those calls every 2 weeks giving updates. So I can definitely invite you to the next one. I think it's next week, maybe. She usually goes over any updates, and she brought that up at our last meeting. So I can send you the invite link for that meeting next week. Oh, I think it's next week.
That would be terrific. I'd love to participate. Thank you. So the next two things I just wanted to check in on, and I believe, Lorena, you can tell me if I'm wrong, we don't really have any updates on them yet from Habitat's end, but just to make sure that it stays on the radar, the two potential Habitat concept projects that we've discussed. I don't know if you...
Can speak in regards to one of them, which was the new construction project on Suffolk Ave. Their procurement construction manager is in Ireland. They're waiting for him to do the site walk together, so that's where that is.
Thank you. And I think we have generally, we seem to be of the mind that it's probably not a site that makes sense to build on, but we do want to just get the evaluation from their construction person anyway, just so that we know and have a better understanding before we make a decision on what to do. But I think that kind of flows into, with the budget that we have, and even after we make the outlay for Salem Street, we'll still have a pretty decent budget, and we're continuing to gain interest. We will have the opportunity to look at either purchasing property, perhaps through something like the condo project on Salem Street and adding to the affordable housing inventory by deed restricting them, or doing a Habitat for Humanity project, or doing something internally ourselves. So I want to make sure that we all know that that's something that I'm still thinking about often. What are the best approaches to do for that? What's the best way to go about it? And obviously open to people's thoughts and opinions and feedback. But it's definitely, I think, to me, when I look at goals for 2024, execute a project like that, really make it happen and be able to say that we made a tangible impact on delivering an affordable home ownership opportunity for one household, two households, three households, make that progress for sure. Any questions, thoughts, feedback on that piece? Okay. And then the other one I mentioned was just kind of goes along with that, the opportunity to subsidize housing in upcoming developments. So we talked about it through Salem Street. I don't know if on the city side you have any relevant updates right now, but we would love to know if there are projects going through the development pipeline, even if it's not now, but that may be coming in the near future, where it makes sense for us to engage with the developer and see if there's an interest in allowing us to work with them on either purchasing a unit or deed restricting a unit, or having some sort of subsidy to help, increase the amount of affordable housing as part of it. So I don't know. I don't expect like an immediate answer to that question, but just kind of have it in mind. It's something that we'd love to work on. Thank you. Yeah, so at the next meeting, we'll be sure to go over kind of what's in the pipeline. That's probably something that we should be discussing regularly, because I think the Salem Street model is a great example of the type of thing that we can do, and it's pretty easily replicable, and has the added value of, you're working on a project that's already happening, so we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We can support work that's already taking place. All right, so that is an overview of all of our sort of activities that are ongoing, in addition to the MGH application process that is sort of at the beginning stage of ongoing. I wanted to take a moment to kind of hit pause and see if folks have thoughts on, where we are. Are we prioritizing the right things? As we look to 2024, should we be moving one of these items down the priority list and, looking to do something else? Do we feel comfortable about maybe what percentage of the budget we've kind of thought about allocating to each portion of this? I know I've shared my thoughts each meeting, so I'd love to hear, if folks have their thoughts, their reflections on where we're at a year into this process. Crazy, it's been a year.
I can quickly just jump in. This is more of a where we are logistically. I don't know if this was already covered in the 12 minutes that I missed at the beginning, but now that we have a definitive mayor-elect coming into January 1st, Jan and Anayo, we will be all set to send your reappointment requests, and that he will hopefully approve and reappoint you guys, and we can keep going full speed ahead. So just wanted to flag that. That's something we can put on our to-do list.
That's a good point, and we do have, I believe, a vacancy, which I'll confirm as well. So talk to your networks, if there's folks that may be interested in
Yes, we do.
being nominated as well.
Mhm.
Okay, others? We had a quiet group today. Everyone's tired. It was a long day yesterday.
I think we're doing what we're supposed to do. I think we're taking things slowly. We're trying to bring in more revenue. We're investigating opportunities. We're seeing what other people do before jumping in and doing things with the money that we have that may not be the best. So I think we're doing the right thing by taking our time, moving forward slowly, and weighing our options.
And I'd add to that we're also accruing interest in the account while we do our due diligence, which I think is a win-win all around. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, Mark, but just because I see that you're here, your perspective, we'd love to hear both from yourself and from the council how you think we may be, meeting some of the needs and challenges and goals that we have for the community for affordable housing.
Well, Joe wasn't expecting to speak. I was just expecting to listen tonight, but I think that, this is a huge step in the right direction in having the Affordable Trust in working groups but we do have a ways to go as a community in hitting the marks and the targets set by the state. And I think that you all are taking the steps in the right direction, but we have a ways to go. And I hope that the year to come, we can make some more advancement in that direction.
Well, thank you, Mark. And I think with a new city council elected and getting ready to start a new term, once they form their committees, it would be great to find time, either for representatives of the trust to speak at a relevant committee hearing or to have members of the council come and be part of a January meeting. We really want there to be an open dialogue between ourselves and the council and make sure that we're working together. So we'd love to have you in our corner for that, Mark, and I know that you will be, and we appreciate that.
Absolutely, Joe. And, I think that you are, as Dean said, you're doing and talking about a lot of the same ideas that I've talked with Tom in economic development about, and that is, you know, private public partnerships and, you know, getting creative with public housing and affordability. And I think that's, ways that we can, and ideas that we can do, and getting creative is ways that we can, build our stock in affordability. So I'm looking forward to, and yes, any support you need, I'm there for, and will be a part of.
Thank you, Mark. Much appreciated. Any other sort of big picture thoughts, feedback, kind of where we are, where we should be going? I will take the collective silence as a sign that we're all on the same page, which I think is often a good thing. So a few follow-up items. Like I said, it was a light agenda today, after we had some hefty ones the last few months. Follow-up items, we're going to get the mission statement and goals to the consultants to help kickstart the housing production plan. We're going to report out to everybody once we know what the next steps are for the housing production plan so that you all can help in the publicizing of that. We're going to connect at some point about discussing the best way to apply for funding from MGH. And Claire, you'll invite me to the next community call with MGH, which should be a good chance to hear from them. We'll get updates from Habitat. Hopefully, you know, by the next time we gather, this gentleman will be back from, seems like a sabbatical in Ireland. Since like he's been there for a little bit. God bless him. And we'll continue, you know, moving forward with hopefully getting some updates on what's coming down the development pipeline for Revere. I think that would be a great overview. And I think it would be helpful as well to get stats on where we are relative to the 40B requirement. I know that we've talked about it before, but it's probably something that we should keep in mind, you know, especially as we continue to engage with the city council. That's something that everyone's going to want to know. And when we think about our plans, it's like, how can we help us fulfill those obligations to make sure that the development that we do as a community fits in with our priorities and what we're trying to accomplish. So my last follow-up item is discussing the next meeting, because shockingly, I kind of can't believe that this is true, but it's December. Next meeting would be in December, and I know that that's a really busy month. There's always a lot going on, and we have the 13th listed as the date for the next meeting, and I wanted to see if folks anticipated that, you know, if they were going to be traveling or if they have holiday things that they, you know, don't think they can be able to participate. If you know right now, let me know, but maybe think about it in the next week or so. We could always pivot to a remote meeting, or we could try to move it up, you know, by a week or something and see if that makes sense. Or we can, you know, push it back. So I don't know if anyone.
Well, it's against a Bruins game, so that's an issue.
Well, you know, we're usually pretty good about. I see if puck drops at 7:30, we're usually pretty good about being prompt for that. So you know, I think that's good work all around.
Sorry, I've been so quiet. I'm fighting migraine, but which is why my eyes are half closed. But I'm here. No, that's really the only thing that I see as a problem.
Mm-hmm. I do know also that that's during Hanukkah as well. So it's something that we want to be mindful of. So because it's during Hanukkah, my inclination would be to see if we could try to move the date. But I don't want to create inconvenience for people. I know that you all take time out of your busy lives. So I'll be in touch about that. And we'll see what the best way is to have a meeting and get the updates that we need and keep making progress and moving forward. I think I missed something in the chat. Deb mentioned that she's going to be also in Ireland. Maybe you can connect with our gentleman from Habitat for Humanity while you're over there, and we can just kill two birds with one stone. All right, well, so light agenda today, quick meeting, but I think helpful overview of where we're at. Really appreciate everyone's thoughts, everyone's feedback. Glad the mayor could stop by. Glad Councilor Silvestri could stop by. And with that, any last questions, comments? No? All right, well, thank you, everyone. Motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion.
Any objection? Seeing none?
No.
All right, good work.